it's one of those weeks that is a kind of a finally good news, right? We've had a lot of good news this week. I think we start with the fact that, at least for most people that you hear talk about the pandemic, is that the numbers are down. Not only those who are infected, but vaccinations also are up. And so there's really a lot of good news this week. Now, it's not all perfect news, and it maybe depends on who you talk to, but it seems as if there's just good news. It feels great. One of the great pieces of news that came out yesterday was the fact that there will be fans in the stands for the Cardinals games. For a lot of us, that just sounds like a lot of fun, right? So we're looking forward to that. Now, they're not going to fill it, 45,000. It's going to be, I think, 32% of capacity. But that's good news, right? We're looking forward to all that. And maybe one other piece of good news is that protocols for the county changed from 25% capacity to 50% capacity, which allows us then to go back to one service. So we'll have kids ministry downstairs, we'll have adult ministry upstairs, but we'll have one service. It's going to happen at 10 o'clock. And we're excited about this because it's felt very disruptive. It's felt like it's pulled us apart. It's been a difficult year, but this is one good step. But as we come back together, we want to remind you there are still some maybe protocols, some guidelines that we want to function underneath. So let me just give those to you. First of all, please register still. Register for yourselves, register your kids if they're going to be downstairs in kids ministry, in Quest Kids. So please register still. Also, as you arrive, we'll have you check in, just like we've been doing before, so that we know who's there and how to kind of function with all the numbers. But also, once you check in, we want to see if we can change things up a little bit. The way our building is arranged, the way it's built, it just creates a bottleneck at those double doors going into the auditorium. It's a natural place to stop and talk, but it creates a bottleneck. So here's what we'd like you to do, is once you check in, that you would move quickly through those doors deep into the auditorium. Find a seating arrangement that's the right size for your group. We'll have them set up in pods. And so find a place, and then you can talk. You can talk with those around you, but that bottleneck gets a little bit problematic, okay? So we're going to really focus on this. I want you to really think about, let's move into the auditorium, find a place to be, and begin to prepare yourself by talking to others, being with your group, and maybe even just preparing your heart and praying right there. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. We're still going to wear face masks since we are going to be singing. And we want to limit the distance particles that we expel when we sing, which is more than when we talk. So we want to limit that, so we'll still be wearing face masks. The distance will distance the pods of chairs from each other still. They won't be quite as far as they were before. We tried to keep them pretty far from each other. We're going to have to add some chairs, but we'll still have those distance at a very safe distance. Now, here's the biggie. It's not only true for our reestablishment of one service, but this is kind of a biggie in churches, really in our culture as a whole. In American culture, it seems like people struggle with being on time. Now, I know, I'm not trying to be parental and shake my finger. We're just trying to kind of deal with reality here. But in our culture, and even at Quest, being kind of barely on time or actually late happens. And when that happens, when too many people are late, what happens is we talk about this, and I've talked about it in the 25 years I've been in church ministry, is that a lot of times the first element of a worship service gets referred to by those who are planning it as a throwaway item. It's kind of a throwaway, allowing people to get there. They're late. You don't want to start, not start, but if you start and there are people still who are late and coming in, it's called a throwaway. Now, if you think about that just for a second, you think about how disappointing that is, that it would be referred to as a throwaway. Here we are gathering to worship the creator of the world. the one who is actually the lover of our souls, the one who is the redeemer of mankind, the one through whom all of life makes sense. And he says, I want you to gather together periodically. And generally the pattern in the scriptures has been on a weekly basis that there would be this gathering of people who would bring their lives together, who would bring their hearts together in order to worship the God of creation, the God of redemption, the one who is the lover of who we are. And so, if we're going to address the deepest needs of the human heart, then probably that first element of a worship service, often a song, instead of being a throwaway, could be part of the warm-up, the part of getting our hearts moving in the right direction, focusing on the Lord, doing it together. It's one of the unfortunate things about staying home and doing it online is you don't get to experience the togetherness of doing this. And I'm not trying to be old-fashioned. I'm all for innovative things. I'm all for technology. But there is something that you lose by not being together and saying, let's worship the Lord together. So I want to encourage you. And this is a major change, right? You probably have to change some cultural things in your own homes. But to be early. They say in the military, if you're 5 minutes early, you're still late. So we're not trying to be military, okay? But what if we were early, relaxed about our entrance, be able to sit and contemplate, prepare our hearts, interact with some others? It would just make it so much better because we don't want to throw away any part of our worship. We want it to be vitally important, okay? Now, all that's really fun. Now, let me go just a few more minutes here. I want us to be sober about things also. I want us to continue to be prudently careful. You see, there are still challenges with this pandemic. It's not over. It's not all fixed. So let's keep up our guard. Let's be careful. Let's know that things are still happening out there. There are still cultural conflicts that are swirling around us. Those have increased. Still searching for answers to those things. There are things that we were wrestling with personally before the pandemic happened. Some of those got put on the back burner. But now as things are changing, those get kind of shifted to the front burner. And those are still difficult. And we're still wrestling through those, personally and in families and whatever that might be. Let's be mindful, too, of the economic impact. And not that we're trying to save the economy for some sort of worship purpose towards that. But the reality is that the economy affects real people and how they're living their lives. And how they're living either under debt or under just real dire circumstances, or just the struggles that happen. There are economic realities that we're facing, and they're not fixed, right? It's going to take a while. So let's be mindful of that. Let's also be mindful of the emotional impact that still continues in the midst of all of this. Recently there was a student-initiated survey in a local school district. And in that survey, that over 800 high school students responded. In that survey, it said that over 500 of them had contemplated suicide in the last year. Now that's powerful. That is stunning. Tragically, there have been a number who have been successful. The numbers of people experiencing deep anxiety and even profound depression, those numbers are off the charts. They're higher than they've ever been. And so these issues still are real. And I'm excited for us to get back together. But I'm most excited about that because we come to worship the one who can answer the issues of the deepest needs of the human heart. And so let's come back together and let's move forward in really understanding the role that God has in a world that's rejected him more and more. But it's to our own demise that we reject him. Those are the things I want you to know before we gather again, 10 o'clock this Sunday. Great. Or if you can be with us in person, that'd be great too. All right? All right. Hey, I love you guys, and I look forward to the days ahead, the weeks ahead, the months ahead, actually the years ahead, as God continues his work among us. All right. Love you guys. Take care.